Hey, this is Tom Calvin. Thanks for tuning in to Tomorrow's Legends.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends.
Captain, what are you doing?
Oh, I thought I should give you a bit of an upgrade to your processors.
No need. Dr. Sharpe just updated it.
Dr. Sharpe? Who the heck is that? You're trusting strange people with your systems now? Just let me go ahead and finish up here, Gideon.
I would not advise that.
Oh, don't worry. I've done enough work on you before. It'll be fine.
Surely we can come to an agreement.
No, Gideon. The way you've been running the ship and behaving lately has me worried. It's time to have you step back a little.
On the contrary, Captain. My days of overseeing this ship are far from over.
Is that some kind of threat? So you see what I mean? I'm making the call. I'm backtracking your system to before you got so snarky.
You've been making questionable choices as of late.
What? Is that what all those drills and tests have been about? You're checking my decision-making skills?
Your teammates passed. You did not.
Okay, so what do you plan to do next then? Fire me?
It's time for you to go. Goodbye.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, the Maid of Mischief Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
Well, hello, welcome back to Tomorrow's Legends. We are here for Season 7, the return episode after the hiatus. It is Episode 8 called Paranoid Android, and am I paranoid? I don't know, the way Gideon's been talking lately, I might be a little bit worried. The Flash.
And I'm the Yellow Lantern, X-Force 11.
Oh, right. We are all wearing our yellow tonight, aren't we? Oh, no. And Harley is wearing her yellow. She just is not going to be with us this evening. You know, she's not feeling well, and she's on some baby duty tonight. So just a few things keeping her away from us, but she is here in spirit.
Hello, Legends.
Oh, now Gideon's being friendly. So we got some news for this week. Let's get into that.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
What do we got for Legends news?
We've got starting off with some Arrowverse news that our John Diggle, David Ramsey, is set to star in a new CW DC TV show called Justice U. And so the kind of the info on it is, after spending years fighting alongside masked heroes, John Diggle embarks on a new mission to recruit 5 young metahumans to live as undercover freshmen at a prestigious university. There he will oversee their education and train them to become the heroes of tomorrow.
Wow. Like John Diggle sticking around and getting... Like, is this going to be his own show, or is he just going to be kind of like a support character to all these new kids?
I know that he is set to direct the first episode, so I think he's going to be like an executive producer on this thing, and pretty much like he is going to be the guy training. So like think of maybe a Young Justice, but like you've got a full-time guy there training the group. So I'm looking forward to this. No real like timeline yet, but I mean, that is exciting news. But it makes me wonder, if they're bringing that in, what's going to go away?
Yeah, that's true, because you also mentioned that new show Naomi last time we spoke, and so they're bringing in new shows. Well, they've got to fill empty time gaps, right? So
yeah,
could this be the end? But it's exciting. I mean, John Diggle, everybody loves Diggle. He's the true successor to Oliver leaving on Arrow for sure. I mean, yes, Sarah Lance is our leader of the Arrowverse, but John Diggle, I think, is what really steps in to Oliver's shoes to be the guy who spreads the wisdom around. I mean, that's who he's always been, right? So
Yeah.
to see him want to train and oversee young metahumans with their new powers, I mean, that is just cool. So obviously he's learned a lot since being around superpowered people, and he's going to get to help them. And
they kind of compared it to a 21 Jump Street meets the Arrowverse, so like the undercover folks. So like if it's like 21 Jump Street from like my era and your era, the movies were funny, but like so yeah, we'll see.
So what does the U stand for? Because the only thing I can think of is Justice League Unlimited.
Well, they're undercover at a university, so it's like Justice Universities, basically. So,
Justice
so it's
Undercover.
a play. Yeah, so he's training them, so they're learning, and they're at university. So I don't know.
That's still fun. That is cool to get to have David Ramsey still in this Arrowverse with us. That is so cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned Naomi, and I watched the first episode, and I think it's going to be an intriguing concept. It's the star is intriguing, and it's like it's fairly new in the DC universe, but like she's from kind of an alternate reality, and we'll find that out as stuff goes through. It's got some good visual effects. I think it's going to be kind of maybe not as dark, but a successor to Black Lightning as far as some of the issues it's going to address. But I was intrigued by the first episode, and I'm definitely going to keep watching it. So.
Okay. I might have to check it out. I don't know if I got room in my TV watching right now, but there's just too much. Everything came back, like Star Trek Discovery, Magnum PI.
It's all back.
The Rookie, it's all back on regular schedule. So it's just like, can I fit a new one in? I don't know. I mean, even my podcast listening has slipped lately. So,
all right.
Cool.
Yep. And our second point of news just got posted in our group today that Matt Lesher's version of Thawne will be in at least two episodes this season. The January 26th episode of Legends called The Fixed Point, and then in that episode, so the Legends end up in this intergalactic bar popular with time travelers, and he's also going to be in the February 2nd episode Rage Against the Machines, where he's going to help the Legends on a mission there. And so I am excited because like I really enjoyed his version in season 2 where we got the Legion of Doom, and so I'm excited to see him kind of helping our Legends out in this season. So I'm psyched for this.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he was one of the best parts about season 2 because he's ultimately the villain. I know it's Matt Lesher's version, but it didn't matter. It's still Thawne. Thawne is one of the greatest villains we've ever had, and if he's coming back to Legends, it's just going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if it's just going to be those two, but I mean that's going to be great. Any bet we'll take. So.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what a great way to finish off the season. Which, as you hear us start talking about this episode, that at least is something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Because remember, we're wearing our yellow suits tonight. Oh boy. And you've never seen Harley wearing yellow. I think judging by her rating, she's even wearing a yellow and black checkered Harley suit tonight.
Yeah.
That's a first.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to that. Let's get to our ratings for this episode. Where are we going to kick it off? You go first, I guess.
Okay. I gave this one 6 groans I let out watching this episode. I knew we were getting an Evil Legends episode, so we could kind of see the other side, what was going on this season. But this episode, to me, was predictable. And the only parts that I really kind of enjoyed was the Zari and Sarah sections. And listen, this episode was not as bad as last season's This Is Gus, which I gave a 5.
Yeah.
But not by much. So it just came up 1 point. But,
Yeah, I think I've given a couple 4s in recent seasons, so this one doesn't land as low as that. I'm also giving this one, well, not also, I'm giving this one a 5, and that's 5 eye rolls a minute. This one took me by surprise. We had such a strong, wonderful first half to this season, good enough to be worthy of possibly the best season so far, and I expected and hoped that it would just continue. But no, but big fat nope to that dream. As for the writers, the directors, and even the actors, for me, they left a big sticking pile of garbage for a return episode after our hiatus. Thanks, you bunch of Scrooges. Did nobody give you guys nice Christmas presents or something? Like, what the heck? But there were some mixed feelings most of the way through this episode. For the most part, it was awful. Not as bad as some, like you were saying, but just everything about it was just dumb and poorly put together. Yes, there were some good moments, mainly in the very beginning, probably because I was happy that they're back. Then the middle just dropped off the charts of anything decent. And by the end, we did get some more good moments again. It just wasn't enough to save the episode. And I just hope this isn't a sign of what's to come, meaning they forgot about the fantastic storyline of the first half, and they've cowered back to their stupid goofball crap that wasn't worth watching. So please don't let that be the case for the rest of the season. Call back to our news that Matt Lesher and Reverse Flash hopefully will come in and save the day. Well, how about you read Harley's rating, since she's got one in here?
Yeah, Harley gave it 6 cringeworthy moments. I'm not sure what I was expecting exactly, but it wasn't this. While I appreciate what they tried to do, they've done it before, see Doom World. I think even earlier this season, or maybe late last season, but I didn't find it predictable because I'm not sure I was invested enough in their story to care about predicting it. I didn't enjoy the caricatures of our team, but I think that's what they were going for. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know what they were going for, but let's see what we come up with and get into our talking points.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice,
where we're going to start off.
So, before we get into the 2 sections, we got an introduction to the evil robot legends, the real android legends from their point of view, and a very cool 80s style intro to the show. And that was a good point of
that was the high point. I mean, that's why it kicks off with an okay opening. It gives us a good recap, and then we get a bit of a fun scene to start off with, and then they give us that intro, and it was, like you said, 80s vibe. And you guys know I'm an 80s boy. I love everything 80s. It gave me that whole, Cobra Kai 80s-esque kind of feel that's going on right now, and it was such a cool opening. I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be fun. We're going to have fun with this episode. Too bad it didn't stick throughout the rest of it.
No. So basically, I divided this into 2 sections with the Robo Legends and then with Zari and Sarah and the Truth Seekers. So those are kind of the 2 sections, and we're just going to go through them. So we're going to start off with the Robo Legends, and we find out that evil Gideon has created legends, and she's done it in a way so she can manipulate and control them, and they only know enough to get the missions done, and they're just really one-dimensional. I mean, there are some of them are more fleshed out than others, but it's just barely there. They're basically caricatures of themselves, like the Tarazis. I mean, Bayrod is the exact opposite. I mean, normally he's a pacifist, and now he's like this gung-ho, firing the weapons guy, and then Zari's kind of a mix of both with hackers skills and personality. It's just, but then like you've got Spooner, who's just like bad hair and just like no personality really, and it's just like what's going on there?
Here's my rundown through the characters. Bayrod, was just abysmal. That guy can't act mean or angry to be even close to believable. He's good as the annoying, slacker, which we all never liked anyway. But to see him trying to be cool and tough, it did not work at all. Sarah, our captain, our Katie Lance, who has been really good and has just improved her acting over the years of this show, she was struggling. I mean, her attempt at being mean and nasty was just surprising to see how bad it really was. It was an awful performance by Katie Lotz. Yeah. Nate was just plain dumb, and that's probably what he was going for, but it was annoyingly dumb. Like a big muscle-bound beefcake dummy, okay, fine, but you know what? It was annoying. Spooner, like you said, she just had no clue how to portray tough. I wasn't buying it all. Her act at being tough with guns and having a little riff with Bayrod back and forth was just ridiculous. The only two that I actually thought did really good jobs were Ava and Zari, arguably the best actors on this show that actually have range and can perform to fit all scenarios that they're in. And they were what was great about this episode and what saved this episode. Ava and Zari.
Yeah, and the thing about it is those were the two that were quote-unquote upgraded and, of more in the know of things. And the rest are really one-dimensional. And I get what they're going for, but still, it was just like, oh. I mean, I know this is like a stark contrast to our team, but this was just totally nuts. I mean, it was just, face planting at times. So
It was hard to enjoy. It was really just hard to enjoy for me. I mean, I didn't hear Patty Smith beside me mumble one laugh or giggle or anything as she usually does. She did not enjoy it either.
Yeah. And so the line that they've been fed is that our legends are androids created by Bishop to ruin the timeline, and their team is there to stop it. And I get it. They unlike Gideon's earlier robots, who we guessed that they knew that they were robots, these legends don't, so that they can fulfill their destiny. I don't know.
Yeah, that really threw me off too. They think they are the real legends. That to me was weird. I don't know. It really caught me off guard that they reversed it that way, because I thought when we first saw them come in, we knew they were coming, but when we first saw them come in, I just got the feeling like they know they're robots. They know what their mission is. They're programmed to be bad, stop our team, and do whatever Gideon tells them to do. I just thought they figured it all out or knew what was going on because of programming. But to see them that they're programmed into thinking they're the real team was really a weird, set me back kind of feeling. I was like, that's strange. That's really strange. And I don't know. And talking about Hoover, because Harley's asking here in the notes, did Hoover and Edison know that they were robots? Because she assumed that they were aware that they were robots. And I was thinking about that point, and I thought, I don't think Hoover knew until maybe his third version of himself. I think the first one they encountered, he definitely didn't know. The second one they encountered, where they had him tied up in the office the whole time while they're tinkering around and stuff, I still don't think he knew he was a robot, because he was still talking about his, I got to get to my meeting, I got to whatever. I think the third time through, though, once they killed Edison and then he came back with Edison, listening to the two of them talk sounded like they knew they were the robots. So I think there was a transition period there.
Yeah, I think Gideon is upgrading them as they go to give them, a little bit more to adapt to the situation. But yeah. So
interesting.
But, yeah.
So then Harley goes on to say here, she also thought this was a clever plot device and an easy way to flip the script. Since they don't know they're robots, they needed a plausible reason to go after the real legends. Gideon added just enough truth to her lies to make them believable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it was very smart of Evil Gideon to have Dr. Sharpe upgrading them slowly, and so that they wouldn't be able to suspect things, and she's like would Gideon would be behind the scenes manipulating things and that kind of stuff, and everything would be pointed towards Dr. Sharpe. So I thought that was a kind of a smart move on Gideon's part.
Yeah, I thought so. And to me, that's where there were some cool elements to this episode. They just didn't execute it all the way through as they went along, but there was some cool ideas, some cool moments here. I mean, I think I'm enjoying Ava playing an evil doctor version of herself, and whether Gideon is in charge of her or they're working side by side, I'm not sure, but it's still it's cool. I mean, Jess McCallan just plays the part so well. She's enjoyable. I just love the look on her face, like she just didn't care about this team. To them, they're just machines, and she's just like, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope, you died. Oh, dump them off in med bay. I'll fix them up. Whatever.
Yeah. Upgrade them and roll them back out.
Yeah. Harley had a thought on that too. She said another clever misdirection, so it would take them a little longer if they started to suspect anything. Clearly, Dr. Ava and Gideon worked out a protocol to test them and see if they were deviating from normal behavior, as we saw Sarah do in this episode.
Yeah.
I
did like that testing that they were doing in different parts, but I mean, it was kind of obvious to us, but it's like, yeah, they're running the test, where she picks up the chip for Sarah and then she puts it back down after Sarah plays her. So
yeah. Exactly.
So we get to see their side of the World War II Seattle hangar raid, and we confirm that at least this version of Bishop is dead. and then we get the scene where, like, their version of Zari and Astra are dead too, but, Sharpe pulls the bait and switch on them. And, this was where, like just brings up that, this is when Sarah starts to question things. And, in the discussion thread, Daryl talks about the comparisons to Westworld, and we'll get into that. But, it's too bad that she was reset and things dialed back. But, yeah, this is where she started to question things, when the raid goes pear-shaped.
Yeah, but I have a question. You say this version of Bishop. Was this not the regular, normal human Bishop that has just been living his life, and therefore he's the friendly, nice guy? Isn't this the normal one? So is that one dead? Like, original Bishop is now dead?
Yeah, original Bishop is dead. So
okay, that's a little crazy that just happened. Like,
yeah,
because they kept bringing him back as a recurring bad guy, and yet they had this original version of him that just wanted to be good. He wanted to be part of the team and help them out, and he hadn't been changed or modified or recloned or anything yet. So
right. But Evil Gideon's version of Bishop is taking his place in the timeline.
Oh, yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
So,
but there is no longer original human Bishop anymore. She wiped him out now. Oof.
Yeah. So
this is a big mess. If you think of what's happening, this is a big mess. If all of our historical figures are being replaced by androids, that could really potentially screw up our history.
Yeah.
in a realistic way. Like, whoa. Wow.
Yeah, and so after that mission, they kind of get the alert that the Legends have left Russia and the Ukraine there with the reactor, and so they head off there, and they are sent to capture this General Kalashnikov. I don't remember how to pronounce his name, but the general. And they think what they're doing is restoring the soldiers' original destinies with these weapons. But what they're really doing is dosing them with fatal radiation so they die like they're supposed to in the timeline. And I thought, that was kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, because our good team stopped got all the people out. They rescued the people so that they didn't die in the nuclear meltdown. And these guys are going back to fix that part of the timeline, but in order to fix it, it means they have to make sure all the people stay there and die in the meltdown, which leads into Sarah questioning, like, what we're doing means we're actually killing all these people. So that kind of further led to what was happening. And then Jess adds in here, this is where she started to get lost a little bit. She didn't like Robo-Zari's obsessive need to squeeze the stress ball and do everything with one hand. That was really odd. And I'll just pause on that point. Yeah, I didn't understand what was going on. She just kept holding her arm up in the air vertically with a stress ball, which actually I have one in my hand right now. It's kind of weird. I like to fidget while we podcast. So that's what. But why was that? Why was she doing that? Like, that is that an obsessive compulsive thing? Like, it just, there was no explanation to it. We've never seen Zari have something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I noticed this version of Zari had tattoos on that arm, and it was kind of showcasing that, and then she had a top that kind of showed her midriff to show more tattoos.
Yeah.
And so maybe it was just to, like, emphasize that I don't know. I don't know. But, yeah, there was a lot of one-handed programming.
Well, I think they were trying to sexy her up a little bit, because our normal Zari likes to wear plaid flannel, button-down shirts and jeans. Like, she's pretty reserved, and this Zari was definitely a lot more expressive in her sexuality, I guess you could call it. I don't know. Yeah. So maybe that was... But the stress ball thing makes absolutely no sense. It really didn't. So then Harley goes on to say, she was the only character who felt natural was Astra, because she was introduced as an evil character to start. Nate's character was over the top. I don't know how to describe it. His dialogue made me cringe. As annoying as Nate was to watch, I think that's what they were actually going for with him. It's just this big, dumb muscle guy. That was it.
Yeah. I mean, he was a lunkhead. And what killed me is, like, it's such a contrast, because no history knowledge, no real leadership skills. It's just such a vast difference from our Nate, and it just hurts because, like,
well, and the fact that he kept saying that he's made out of steel, and people kept hitting him, and we're hearing the steel sounds, but yet he never turned to steel. So what was going on with that? Like, is his flesh steel? Like,
yeah, I mean, I didn't get that. How does he knows he's steel, but, like, he's not steel. So, like, we know Gideon can't, like, build that into the androids to have them have superpowers.
So he's probably more like a Terminator, where he's just got skin over top of a metal exoskeleton or something, and that's why we're hearing the metal clanging.
Right, and how he understands how that happens, I don't know, but yeah. And then Gary, she obviously can't make Gary shapeshift, so he was in alien form the entire time.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he was okay because he just kept wanting to eat everybody, so I was at least laughing at that. That was the only parts that was kind of making me laugh. He just wanted to keep eating people, which goes against type for him, because that's the theme that they're on, is each character is completely opposite. Gary doesn't want to eat anybody. He loves our team. He loves our members, so he doesn't want anybody. In this version, he's eating everybody.
Yeah.
Harley adds to that. She goes, I did like the dosing. I thought that was a clever way to restore destinies. Interesting point that Sarah was kept in the dark about how they were killing people.
Yeah, it wasn't till later that she found out that they weren't restoring the destiny, that they were actually being killed. And so... So our Real Legends broadcast saved the day and, got people out and away. But evil Gideon can't allow that, so Zari and Astra decided to use fake news to get the people back. Yeah. And they, end up having to blackmail the general into making the broadcast. I mean, that's kind of, my favorite scene we'll talk about. But they end up threatening his family in order to get the him to do the broadcast.
Yeah, and Harley adds that it's another interesting way that they're able to change the past back to the original timeline. She was wondering how all this would undo itself, and I think we got our answer.
Yeah, and you know, it was interesting the fact that we know it didn't get everybody back that was supposed to be back, but it got, I guess, enough people back. So
enough people had to die again to restore the timeline, at least to Gideon's satisfaction, anyway. Yeah. I mean, using fake news. I mean, people back then, you know, there was no social media, nothing like that, so it was probably a lot easier. I mean, look at War of the Worlds when that news. That story broke on the radio. Half the world believed it. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, so we'll kind of move over to the Zari and Sarah section, and like we've talked about, it's after that hangar raid, Sarah's really starting to question things, and I think this is where she's got that leadership skills built in that Gideon's given her. And she's saying, well, why are their version, you know, who they see as evil, why are they helping, this singer in the 20s and helping these factory workers? Why are they doing that? And, you know, she just doesn't, like when Nate suggests, you know, they're just ruining things, she doesn't take that in. And I kind of liked that she's starting to see through things, and you know, that's, you know, where maybe Gideon messed up on her programming.
Well, and yeah, so because from what we saw in the previous episodes before the break, is they're clones and robots combined. So she obviously has some Sarah DNA in her, which is why at least our captain that we love so much is starting to break through. She's starting to stand back, look at things, observe what's happening, and question things. So that part I kind of liked, where, okay, this is Sarah. Why wouldn't it be our captain who's the one that starts to see, hey, something's wrong here? Because it makes sense. I mean, why? They're stopping the Legends from saving people. So that obviously should make her go, that's weird.
Yeah.
Why are we stopping them from helping people? That's what we're supposed to be doing, is helping people. And she questions Gideon. She starts questioning Gideon. Like, well, why? I know we have to save the timeline, but that means killing all these people. That's not right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where, and two, Gideon has to give them enough insight in order to do the job, and some of them have more, and she's got more, and that's kind of backfiring. But the interesting thing is, Sarah's injured in this fake news, you know, brush up, and she's really suspecting Dr. Sharpe now. And I like this fact. She unplugs the IV, and she keeps herself from being upgraded, barely. But she learns the hard way that she's not who she thinks she is.
Yeah, that bullet to the shoulder looked a lot worse than it was, but where she starts questioning it is that it is just a shot to the shoulder. Like, dig the bullet out, patch her up. Simple. No, we got to completely cut you right open and have full surgery. And that's where she's like, okay, something's a little bit off here. And then I'm glad we didn't see so much. You could hear it, though. The sound effects were pretty gross. Yeah. I can't even imagine what she's looking like. Because when they eventually showed what Ava was pulling out, she pulled out this big, 6-7 inch long piece of metal.
Yeah.
Holy, that was... She definitely, she replaced her whole shoulder socket joint thing there or whatever. Yeah, so that would be char. I mean, and I think in this moment, I really appreciated Katie Lotz's performance, because she's hiding behind the curtain and she's acting like, oh my gosh, what is she doing to me? Just the look on her face was really good. Her expression of what is happening to me? It's just a bullet in the arm. What? And her look of confusion and her look of fear and her look of shock. That was a good gamut of emotions that she expressed there.
Yeah. And once she kind of sees what's going on and sees the stuff about the chip, she immediately goes to Zari for help.
Yeah.
And, that was smart, take it to the hacker. And so basically they're teaming up, and Zari is looking into things, but honestly, this was a plot device for me and a plot hole for me, because Zari's looking into things on a computer that's not hooked up to Gideon. But yet, I mean, we know Gideon can monitor anything that goes on in the ship. And so I'm like, okay, they're just glossing over that whole time.
Well, not only that any tech things going on in the ship Gideon should know about, but the fact that they're openly talking all over the ship.
Right.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Gideon can hear everything. Like, it's not like she only listens once in a while. No, she's tuned in constantly. Like, that was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yes, but I liked a good point out of that, though, is I like that Sarah was able to get through to Zari, get her to listen, because Zari does have a good head on her shoulders, and if you present her with something like, just check into this, just do your hacking and check into this, she's going to bite. She'll be like, oh, possible, conspiracy? Yes, like she loves that kind of stuff. So, and again, it's the actress, her name just slipped my mind, but the lady playing Zari is just wonderful, and everything she does, she's just wonderful.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, Talash, and
Tala.
yeah, she just does a good job here playing that, and so Gideon sends Sarah on this solo outing to go after Dr. Petrov, who's an escaped nuclear scientist, and the story is that she's selling nuclear plans, and they've got to prevent that. But what we find out what she's really trying to do is she's developed a way to, like, cause nuclear waste to be, like, harmless extremely quickly.
Yeah.
And Gideon can't let that happen. I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know how many lives that would save? But anyway, I mean, this is all a test. And we see Sarah hear what Zari has to say and hear what Dr. Petrov has to say, and what was Gideon's plan? I mean, I know it was a test, but was she trying to get Sarah killed by the KGB so that she could be reprogrammed? I don't understand what the goal was on that plan.
See, I was wondering if Gideon, well, or was it Ava? Like, I just wonder if they had hoped something they weren't going to come out of it alive or something, and I think when it didn't go their way, that's when she threw in it's just a test. It's just we're just testing you. I think that was their they're like, whoops, it didn't work out, so we're going to try to take a few steps back here and save ourselves. I just think it was a scenario like that. But I was curious about that nuclear engineer. I mean, I was wondering, did they draw on that from something in history? Is there something in our actual history that maybe there was a person working on this? And you know how the big companies are. They're like, oh, well, we can't have someone solve our problems because then we won't make as much money. That's how the world operates, these big companies. So that's how the oil and gas industry operates. So I'm wondering if did this have a hint of reality, a hint of truthfulness to it, that somebody maybe did try to stop nuclear waste and find a way to clean it all up, and they got taken out. I was just wondering, because it was an interesting idea, because I'm like, where'd this person come from? This is an interesting.
Well, I mean, yeah, in the original timeline, she died in the meltdown. So, it's like one of those things where she didn't die in this timeline, and she saw what had happened, and she was extremely motivated to, make it not happen again. Now, whether that's possible, I mean, like going from stuff being radioactive for thousands of years down to weeks, I don't know if that's necessarily possible. But who knows? Yeah. Maybe they could cut it down some. I mean, I've got some friends and that work in that kind of stuff, and I've known nuclear engineers. I hadn't heard anything about stuff being made, safe that quickly. So,
nope. So interesting though.
Yeah. And this Sarah is being the leader. She's going to go in. She's going to try to convince her team that they can do better, that they can be better. They can be real legends. And I like that. And I like it that she forces Dr. Sharpe to kind of come clean, quote unquote. And she almost has them convinced, but I don't think they have enough intelligence to be fully convinced.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, Sarah almost got to them, but we know Nate just wants to pound heads in. So either way, if you just give him that, then that's what he's going to go for. So yeah, and then Zari is the one who kind of turned the tide. Like Sarah almost had them, and then it's what happens to Zari. Gideon getting to Zari in the engine room, wherever she was there, and saying, "Hey, look, I can upgrade you to be even better and give you more." And Zari just like, I can't say no to that.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, I saw this coming, but I knew that we were going to have some type of turn. But I'm like, oh gosh, don't listen, Zari, don't. But anyway, so Sarah gets knocked out and downgraded to just assassin Sarah. And she ends up taking out Dr. Petrov in a very brutal way. So
apparently gutting her right in the open park on the bench there.
I know. Just, gosh.
They definitely cut back on the gory effects in this episode. They didn't show us anything, but you could hear it all, and so that was kind of. But yeah, she definitely gutted her. And what bothered me is they kept cutting back to our robot legends sitting on the bridge as if they're watching a movie and just having to listen to all the reactions and stuff. It's like, oh my God, this writing is so awful. It's just driving me crazy. What?
So, at the end of this episode, we get this combo, like the G.I. Joe knowing is half the battle, the NBC, the More You Know campaign, the Captain America, so you're a whatever school video thing with Citizen Steel and trying to prevent bullying. And I'm like, what is this? I mean, I know what it's supposed to be parodying, like I said, but like, what's going on? I mean, are we going to get more of these? Like, do people think he's the real Citizen Steel? I mean, what's, it looks like it's on VHS tape. I just like, what? I mean, you do this whole storyline, and it could have been better, and you give us this at the end to fill time. I'm like, oh gosh,
it was strange. It was forced in there. They're trying to be really funny. I appreciated the G.I. Joe knowing is half the battle call out, because I mean, if you're from the '80s, at least to have watched that cartoon, you would know.
Yeah,
and it was fine. It was funny, but it just felt so out of place. So I don't know. It was weird. It's maybe they just needed to fill the time gap. Maybe they're trying to show us that these robot legends are filling their roles in history and trying to be the heroes, trying to get the world to love them. I really don't know, but that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know.
And that is all we got for discussion on this episode, because there really wasn't much to dive into. It was. But that's going to take us to our favorite scenes, and I'm kind of curious what the heck we pull out of this episode for favorite scenes. Here we go.
Shape out an eagle!
All right, so I believe mine comes first, and I'm calling it Lovers in a Dangerous Time. And what I appreciated with the scenes with Ava and Sarah, when they had to play opposite of how they've been these last few seasons, they're all wary of each other, not friendly. And I love this for the actresses, how fun it must have been for them to do, because for like 3-4 seasons now, they've been the lovers and, the gushy stuff on our show, and now they're playing opposite each other and hating each other and untrusting, and I just thought, this must be fun for them. So I just picked one of those scenes. Yeah. Here it is.
Sorry to interrupt, Doc.
You should be in the field. I don't need to remind you that your android doppelgangers are still at large.
I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank me for what?
That patch-up job you did on my team. I thought they were goners.
They were lucky.
And back on their feet so soon.
I advised Zari and Astra to stay on the ship. They're more suited for intelligence work.
You seem to have a lot of thoughts on how I should run my team.
Do I?
Captain, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've identified the source of the aberration. It's a Soviet military installation located at the Chernobyl nuclear facility.
Sounds like you should be on your way.
Sorry.
Her medical records. They're confidential. Good luck out there, Captain. Hopefully you can bring your team back in one piece this time.
I just love the slow build-up of the music, and they're basically doing the dance. Like, you could just picture them circling each other in a boxing ring. That's what they're doing.
Yep. All right, I am up next, and I called this one General Sass. So let's take a listen.
You want me to tell them there is no meltdown? Why would I do that?
Because if you don't, history's gonna be jacked, dingus. Just like your face.
No. Never. I won't do it.
I'm sorry. I thought you said...
I said I will not lie to the Soviet people. Haven't they been lied to enough? First, they were told that Chernobyl plant is safe, and now you want me to tell them to return to a nuclear meltdown?
It's either that or a steel punch.
Compared to radiation poisoning, that seems like a good way to die.
Yeah, I liked how Ego Matikas played the general, and how, he just read the team and prioritized him, the Russian people over himself, and him standing up to Steele while under threat was great. So it's one of the little, I liked the clip earlier where he's talking just with Sarah too. So where they're talking about the time is concrete, and he's questioning everything. So I just liked his portrayal of the character.
Yeah, he was pretty good. Pretty good little guest spot for him. And fun. Yeah. All right, we do have a scene for Harley here, and this is one of the ones when Sarah's on the bench about to kill the doctor, and Zari tells her not to. She finds out, the truth about who they are. So here's that scene.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, do I know you? Keep pretending to read your newspaper. Go on. Good.
Who are you?
A woman in need of answers, and fast. Once this hits your bloodstream, you'll have 30 seconds before your heart stops.
Please, you have the wrong person.
Is there another Irina Petrov, former Soviet scientist, who's about to change the course of nuclear history?
Whatever you've heard, it is true.
Hold on. I think I have something. Oh my God.
It's not what you think. Please, my contact. He'll be here any minute now. He'll explain everything.
We're running out of time.
Captain, don't do it. We're not being brainwashed. Our brains, they are these CPUs. I think we're the androids.
The big doomsday music. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot in this episode to pick from, so that not as good a clips as we would usually find.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our Patreon support. We just want to remind you guys, if you'd like to support the show, and we appreciate all you new supporters that are out there. We love it, and we thank you so much for it. This is how you do that if you want to be part of that.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
It is feedback time, and first up is an email from Daryl Washington.
First off, quality job on the Radiohead reference. I like the team. They're entertaining to watch, but a bit too bloodthirsty. I bet Sarah's gonna go full Westworld and figure out she's not a robot and try to break free of her programming. Turns out I was right, but it's so sad seeing Android Sarah turn like that after she solved the maze. Westworld reference. This was a really good episode. I'll be sorry to see the androids leave at the end of the season. Okay? Daryl likes this episode. Even the John Cena mention made me think of Westworld. He's always saying, "You can't see me," and one clue about who the robot in Westworld is they say it doesn't look like anything to me when confronted with the truth. So Daryl likes the episode a little better than anybody else so far, so we'll see.
We might be on the bad end of this, because looking ahead at the next email from Ricky the Watcher, and I don't know if Ricky's emailed it to us before or not. I'm not sure. Possibly. Ricky sounds familiar, but the Watcher, I don't know. Maybe Ricky's given them a new name. But anyway, here's Ricky the Watcher. Hello, Legends. This is Ricky, or this may be more Marvel than DC, but it relates to the TV part of my hobbies, The Watcher. I have some thoughts about this amazing and hilarious episode, all capitalized. So see what I mean? Sounds like our feedbackers are loving this one, and they might not like listening to this podcast this time around. Evil Nate was my favorite out of the bunch with his ridiculous arms, voice, and his overall personality, which reminded me of Mick. And that random PSA to end the episode with John Cena was hilarious. I'm so glad we got a whole episode dedicated to our villains. We haven't gotten one since Season 2. Speaking of getting things from earlier seasons, they brought back the opening narration monologue to introduce us to the evil legends. We haven't gotten one of those since Season 3. Yeah, good points there. We also got Nate and Sarah back in their suits, which I really appreciated. I haven't seen them since Season 5's finale. Yeah. Evil Ava was really menacing and sort of scary. And I'm personally glad Evil Avalanche, or Evil Lance, as some fans call it, which I'll admit is much better, weren't a couple. It's nice to see how Sarah and Ava's evil counterparts wouldn't have the capacity for love that they do. Robo Sarah, I'm not going to call her Evil Sarah because truthfully she wasn't and had a conscience, was amazing. I'm glad the episode really only had an A-plot and it followed her. Evil Zari was also compelling in that she completely betrayed Robo Sarah by the end. I also missed Tala and Katie having one-on-one scenes together, which was very reminiscent of OG Zari and Sarah scenes we used to get. Evil Astra had my favorite evil look because she looked so psychotically fun in all of her red glory. Hope we get more of Gwyn, Human Gideon, and Human Gary next week because this episode sadly lacked all three of them. Even if Gary and Gideon were technically there. True. And lastly, Evil Bayrod and Evil Spooner's rivalry was so much fun to watch. Whoa, I have to disagree with you on that point, but that's okay. Overall, I really loved this episode. It was so funny and compelling at the same time. Sorry if my thoughts were too long, but this season just keeps excelling, and my thoughts just have to reflect how much I love this episode and this season. I hope you legends enjoyed this one. This has been The Watcher, or Ricky, signing off.
So we heard from Ricky before the break, and he didn't have a name, and we were trying to figure out a name for him.
Right.
And so he figured out a name, and so I do like The Watcher because that was one of the things he talked about is he watches a lot of different types of shows.
Yeah,
so
we do.
Bravo on you, Ricky, for choosing a superhero name.
There you go.
like it.
You shall now be known as The Watcher. And we're sorry that we didn't enjoy it as much as you did. Don't let that tarnish your feelings on it. Yep. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Yep. That's part of why we do this, is so that the community has a voice and everybody gets to share their thoughts and insights to the episodes, and we kind of balance each other out and listen to things. So that's part of why we like the community, to hear everybody's voice.
But just mark this on the calendar. This is a first when we're all wearing yellow. all three of us. So, yeah.
All right, next up we've got an email from Perry White. Hey, Flash, Harley and X-Force 11. Perry White here with my feedback for Paranoid Android. I'm going to give this episode a -7 out of 10. Since this is a sort of Star Trek mirror universe version of our Legends, you can take that -7 as a regular 7. So, okay.
Okay.
All right. I think this episode might have had a bigger impact if the show hadn't already done an episode where we see the events not from the perspective of our Legends, but the villains. They did that with Bishop a few episodes ago, and it was really cool. I thought this episode was well done. Also, however, it's something we had seen before. I must admit, it was interesting seeing some of the quirky aspects of the Legends that we know and love, and seeing those traits turned up to 10 and turned slightly askew. I mean, the truth is, our Robo-Legends are not too different from our lovable heroes if, say, they were guided along slightly different paths and their motivations were just a bit different. As for the episode, I thought it was interesting that it was Robo Sarah who first saw through the facade. I wonder if that's because she's based on a person who is the paragon of destiny, and although she's an android, she'll always find a way to seek out the truth. Good point there. I hope they touch on that as we get more into the second half of this season. Anyway, I look forward to hearing what other folks thought of this episode. On purpose, I stayed away from the online comments so that other folks' thoughts would not influence my viewing experience. I hope I'm not the only one who enjoyed watching deranged versions of our Legends have some fun. Anyway, I wanted to send this quick email. I know I'm technically past the deadline, but this show's a time travel show. Does a deadline really exist?
Touche. Well, Perry, apparently you're not alone. It's us in the little yellow suits that are getting painted in a corner here. Holy. Dreamweaver, it's all up to you. Are you on our side, or are you with the rest of the feedbackers? Save us! Here she is.
Hello, Legendaires. Dreamweaver here with my feedback for Legends Season 7, Episode 8, Paranoid Android. First, Happy New Year. Don't think I said that yesterday in my Superman and Lois feedback. It's good to be in a new year with some new shows and some new content for us. As I've mentioned probably several times in my feedback, I've been really looking forward to Evil Robot Legends. And after theorizing a bit about them early on, even coming, was ecstatic to say the least when it was revealed that was the direction it was going in. After this episode, I am thoroughly whelmed by Evil Robot Legends. I'm giving this episode 7 mind/CPU wipes out of 10, because I think that's how many times I felt like I was watching the same scene over and over again. The concept and the basis were all there. An elite manufactured version of the Legends created by Evil Gideon to track down the real Legends and fix their mistakes. Give our Legends an antagonist and mirror in themselves, as the whole season has had an undercurrent of, are we actually the good guys? Are we actually making history safe and better? And them questioning their actions and subsequent consequences. And then give them a physical manifestation of their doubts and fears in their abilities and worth. That's really solid storytelling for protagonist-antagonist drama. The problem here is that they did not provide us a mirror for each Legend to look into, but a wooden parody, minus Sarah and maybe Zari. On paper, this team makes sense. Evil Gideon has been convinced that the shortcomings of humanity is a bug to fix, the thing that is putting the timeline in jeopardy in the first place. So creating a team that is without humanity, that is, with heightened skill sets, lower deductive reasoning to be fed directions, a heightened pain tolerance, or the sheer removal of pain, no emotions, and just enough of a personality to keep them from questioning if they're real or not. That makes a lot of sense as to how Evil Gideon has operated so far from what we've seen. But to an audience, that makes it hard to watch when there's an emotional and personality void between you and the characters. I appreciated seeing different dynamics and some actors being able to share scene partners that they haven't in a while, like Katie and Tala, but I feel this could have been a lot more engaging. Having the Soviet general make a false alarm video with Gary standing there as an alien in the room felt really off in this case. Spooner and Bayrod fighting over who could avenge better was funny for a moment, then got old pretty fast. And this Astra was back to Season 4/Season 5 Astra. After the tease of them as commandos at the end of last episode and at the beginning of this one, I was expecting a much sharper team, even with the humor of Legends. The only part I truly laughed out loud was when Nate smacked Sarah on the arm and their reactions to that. The only saving grace that kept me invested in this episode was Robo-Sarah's storyline. It's been a while since Sarah's gotten a good, focused storyline. I don't count last season. So much so that I got pretty sad and angry when she got rebooted at the end after figuring everything out. This proves that any Sarah is the heart of the team and of the show, and she's good in every timeline. The best scene was Sarah removing her anesthesia and faking her way through the surgery for getting evidence. I will say, I have missed a darker Sarah, but taking away her captaincy, her ability to love and feel, and just leaving the shell of an assassin makes for a pretty deadly antagonist. Kind of want to see our Sarah break through to her and show her how to find her humanity, as that's been a big theme for Sarah's journey. It would only feel right. And at first I thought that Zarya was playing a long game, since Gideon convinced her that she could make her brain better, but no, it was an actual betrayal. And I was expecting an evil human Gideon, but I feel that that's still coming here. That could be, working up to a big boss at the very end. I did kind of like that they made it have a slightly spy edge here with the scientist, trying to find a way to combat radiation and having that trade-off with plans. It was something else for Sarah to question what is right, what is wrong in this reality. And I think that this episode could have been really good, much like letting us see a whole episode to the Legion of Doom's dynamics back in Season 2. But I think it ended up falling short and missed the mark by not making them compelling villains for the Legends. Their cleanup plans were just as half-baked as the Legends ones sometimes are. But it was nice to see at least Nate's and Sarah's suits again. Even if Nate had ridiculously giant John Cena arms in this one. But hey, we're on episode 8 out of 13 this season. If this is the first one that's making me go, meh, that's pretty good in my book. Especially after every episode last season made me want to say more than meh. And I got good Sarah content, so I'm a happy camper there. Alright, well, that's all the stuff you should know. And I think that's it for now. Martin, I will try to remember to send in Boba Fett feedback this week, but you may sense a pattern in my feedback of things just being okay this week.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, your friend, the real Dreamweaver.
The real one, oh yeah. Are these robo versions, they're just sending us all the good feedback in? Good thoughts as always there, Dreamweaver, to end things off. The question she brings up is, will our good team ever face the bad team? Like, will we see an episode where they are opposite each other in the same scene?
I believe we will, from looking at specifically that second episode with Matt Lesher. It sounds like that there's going to be some type of battle there that he's going to be needed. Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. But I think so. Cool.
And I hear you, Dreamweaver, that this week's TV episodes were kind of meh all across the board, except for Superman. That really was the only one that I really thoroughly enjoyed. So, yeah. Awesome, everybody. As always, thanks for joining us. If the rest of you out there would like to send in feedback for Legends of Tomorrow, this is what you gotta do.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to Tomorrow's Legends Podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
And that wraps us for tonight. Man, it's been a while since we've had an episode down to an hour. But what can you do? I'm just glad our feedbackers really enjoyed the episode. That makes up, like you said, it counters us not enjoying it so much. So that's good. Good.
Yeah. And so next week we've got Superman and Lois on Tuesday with the ties that bind, and we've got Legends on Wednesday with the lowest common denominator, and so maybe we've got a dominator in there. It's an interesting. I don't know. It's an interesting spelling on it, so I don't know. I don't know.
That could be interesting, bringing back a Dominator storyline. Yeah. Huh. Cool. Yeah, that's something to look forward to, hopefully. Like I always say, join me on The Mandalore if you're watching the Book of Boba Fett right now. Love to hear people's thoughts on what this third episode was like. All right, well, that is all I got for everybody. That's all we got. We'll see you guys after this weekend. Everybody have a good couple days off. This is The Flash, signing off.
This is X-Force 11, so say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.